What if everything you see, hear, and remember just isn't actually real? I mean, imagine waking up in a world where your own memory is considered a literal crime. A world where every single room has a screen watching your every move, and where the truth is just whatever the government decides it is today. It's a terrifying thought, right? Hello, and welcome to Bookish, where stories come alive and books open new worlds. Here at Bookish, we dive deep into the ideas, the voices, and the timeless questions behind the world's greatest books. Today, in this explainer, we're moving way beyond the cliche of just calling things Orwellian. We're going to actually dissect the core mechanics of control in George Orwell's absolute masterpiece, 1984. So, Part 1. What is 1984? Let's take a look at the origins of Oceania. Okay, let's dive right into this. To understand why this book hits so incredibly hard today, we have to remember that Orwell didn't just invent these horrors out of thin air. Not at all. Back in 1936, he fought in the Spanish Civil War. He witnessed firsthand this thick atmosphere of paranoia, persecution, and outright lies as political factions turned on their own allies. Then, jumping to 1943, following reports of the Tehran Conference, he watched as global superpowers essentially carved up the post-war world into massive competing spheres of influence. So by the time 1984 was actually published in 1949, it wasn't just a novel. It was a very deliberate, urgent warning against the totalitarianism he observed in the regimes of Stalin and Hitler. In Orwell's fictional setting of Airstrip 1, which is what used to be Great Britain, the ruling party doesn't just govern. They seek absolute power entirely for its own sake. There are no actual written laws in Oceania. Instead, the state exerts total dominance through fear, torture, and the complete systemic erasure of individuality. If you step out of line, you don't just go to jail. You become an unperson. Every single record of your existence is completely destroyed, like you were never even born. Which brings us to Part 2. Surveillance and control, the death of privacy. So how on earth does a government achieve that level of absolute dominance over millions of people? Well, it starts with the complete destruction of physical privacy, mainly through the mechanics of the thought police. Citizens are forced to live with these two-way telescreens in every single room that can see and hear them constantly. There's no turning them off. Hidden microphones record their whispers. Children are literally conditioned to spy on their own parents and report them for disloyalty. On top of that, citizens are kept in a perpetual state of exhaustion through grueling work hours and mandatory morning exercises they call the physical jerks. You can't even allow your face to show an improper emotion. Seriously, an involuntary sigh or a wrong look is a punishable offense known as face crime. This continuous, inescapable observation forces everyone into a state of intense, suffocating anxiety and self-censorship. And that leads right into Part 3, manipulating the truth and controlling reality itself. Because you see, controlling physical behavior just isn't enough. To maintain absolute, unbroken power, the party has to control reality itself. And they do this through a psychological weapon called doublethink. It's this intense process of indoctrination where subjects must simultaneously accept two completely conflicting beliefs as absolute truth, defying all logic and even their own memory. The Ministry of Truth constantly rewrites history, forcing citizens to actively forget the real past and genuinely believe bizarre contradictions. Things like, war is peace, and ignorance is strength. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate goal of all that manipulation. There's a famous party slogan, "Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past." By erasing and constantly rewriting history, the party prevents any real opposition from ever forming. Think about it. If you literally can't verify what happened yesterday, you are left entirely dependent on whatever shifting narrative the party hands you today. But the goal here isn't just basic compliance. As the inter-party member O'Brien chillingly explains to our protagonist, power is in tearing human minds to pieces and putting them together again in new shapes of your own choosing. The ultimate objective is the complete, terrifying psychological dismantling of the individual. Now for Part 4, erasing thought with language, the weapon of newspeak. To tear a mind apart that effectively, the party targets the very foundation of human thought, our words. They invented something deeply insidious called newspeak. Notice how this language shrinks. Standard English, which they call old speak, is systematically destroyed. The word excellent, gone. It becomes double plus good. Liberty, equality, privacy, they are all lumped together and become crime-a-think. Objectivity is just old think. Blind, enthusiastic acceptance is belly feel. Notice the rhythm there? Short, sharp, automatic. Newspeak shrinks our vocabulary to completely eliminate nuance. It makes rebellious concepts literally unthinkable. I mean, if you don't have the words to describe a rebellion, you can't even formulate the thought. Speech becomes entirely unconscious. So part 5, why it feels so real today, moving from fiction to reality. When you look around at the world right now, you really have to ask yourself why a fiction from 1949 feels so undeniably present today. Let's contrast the two realities for a second. Orwellian surveillance was terrifying, right? It was forced upon citizens by the thought police to suppress dissent through physical punishment and fear. But consider our modern surveillance. You and I voluntarily adopt it via our smartphones, our social media, and AI tracking. We willingly surrender our personal data, our exact locations, and our deepest preferences to massive tech companies and governments. And we justify it all for the sake of convenience, a little security, and those highly targeted algorithms. And you know, this extends way beyond just technology into global geopolitics. Orwell envisioned a world divided into 3 massive superstates: Oceania, Eurasia, and East Asia, all locked in this perpetual conflict with rapidly shifting alliances. Today, looking at it neutrally, many political analysts draw sharp parallels to our modern tripolar world. We see incredibly complex, shifting power struggles between the US, Russia, and China. They're constantly maneuvering for influence over smaller nations and disputed territories, echoing that very same framework Orwell laid out. What makes 1984 so profoundly relevant, so deeply unsettling, is this terrifying shift from physical force to psychological control. Orwell predicted the manipulation of truth, the sheer power of misinformation, and the editing of reality. He totally foresaw how fear and conformity breeds self-censorship. But perhaps the one thing he didn't foresee is that we wouldn't actually need to be forced to install telescreens. No, we would happily carry them in our pockets and willingly participate in our own surveillance. So, maybe the real question isn't if 1984 is real. Maybe the question is, how close are we to it? It's a thought that really lingers, isn't it? It urges us to maintain awareness of our own digital footprints and to really question the narratives we so easily accept. Thanks for being with Bookish. Don't forget to subscribe, stay curious, and join us for the next one.